So for those who don't know me, I'm Bruce Lamb. John asked me to fill in for him today on this February 16th edition of Coffee Hour, and we're right at the hour. So welcome everyone. It is a show and tell. I'm going to be pretty open, but I was kind of, I guess, not so nice to Jim as we started up and worked on his funnel issues and funnel club. And I wanted to at least start out by showing him that he's not the only one. Although sometimes even the best of cases, it can happen to you when you least expect it. And if I can share this with you, let's see. I was hollowing this vessel the other day and I found I had an assistant hollowing it that I wasn't aware of. I actually had already gone, but I found this big crevasse back in my vessel. And I see people laughing. Maybe it's happened to you too. But I never pulled out a live bug before. And this grub came out. He had done a lot of the heavy hollowing of my vessel without me really tending to know about it. And the problem was trying to figure out where he came out of the vessel. And unfortunately, no matter what I did, he was going to be in front of me, what he'd already done damage to. So then sometimes you do have to do damage control to your funnel, even though you had nothing to do with creating a funnel. This is a product called epoxy with an A, putty. I guess Milliput is a similar product, although it comes in colors. And I've used it in things like this. But you can see where the bug, where the grub had been already. He was all the way to my faceplate and left a trail behind him as to what was already a problem. And you can see further up on the vessel where there was damage, but I at least was able to deal with that. But anyway, you get this product in colors, and sometimes even though you have a funnel, you can still create a vessel. So I just wanted to show you, Jim, that it's not just you.
Yeah, I've had worms down in a piece I turned really lovely, and then I went through the sidewall inside, and guess what was laying right inside that thin wall? One of those worms. I never knew it was there.
Yeah, I had never had that happen to me. I've had lots of bug damage and such, but I never pulled out the whole the whole bug in one piece. And that piece had been in my shop for about a year in wax. So I was kind of surprised to find them in there. Anyway, that's my funnel story. So let's begin. We have a lot of things. I know Ernie had said he has got some things to share from Festool, was it? And
Yes.
let's start there. And then I've got a bunch of others. We don't have that many that have got hands up yet, so let's continue to do that as you can. But we'll start with Ernie. Let's see.
All right, I'm sharing screen here. I last Wednesday night, a week ago yesterday, I was in Lebanon, Indiana for the first really press event or media event today that Festool's had since before the pandemic. And a bunch of us gathered there, about 30 or 40, mostly what are called influencers today, people that have websites more than traditional media like a magazine writer. Will Sampson in this photo and I were about the only two traditional magazine writers there. The most of them were more like this, influencers. We were put on a bus and taken over to Festool US headquarters. And this is Rick Bush, who's head of marketing, addressing the group. And we were taken through their offices, and we got to see the repair center. This is actually the social media center right here. And this is where they cook up all the shots for advertising, things like that. This then was a tour of the warehouse, which we were then taken to a part of the loading dock, really, where they had assembled a area and had stations out for each of the new tools they were introducing that night. And we spent about two or 3 hours in here. We got to play with all the tools, and questions were answered, and we were given we actually signed a confidentiality that we couldn't even talk on social media about some of these things before yesterday. So it's all right to show all of this stuff now. And they came around with hors d'oeuvres, and there was alcohol served, which left me with the problem of taking a beer bottle out of my own photo while I was there. I think the two tools that really struck me is Festool is sort of the inventor of what's called a track saw. And here we see an aluminum rail on this sheet of melamine faceboard. And if you've ever cut this in a table saw, it just rips the edge of it to pieces on one side or the other, depending on the direction of the blade. Their track saw has always done better than most with this because traditionally it had a little plastic gizmo in here that was sacrificial, and it came down over the cut. And the rail has another sacrificial rubber edge over here that covers the cut. And so it cuts up and around and through pretty cleanly. But they finally come up with what most shop table saws in a good cabinet shop have today, which is a counter scoring blade. My Felder right over there has one. And that's a smaller blade running in the opposite direction ahead of the cut. And it's right here in this new TS60 saw. And it has a second motor right here to run this. It was the one plugged tool in the entire evening. The rest are all cordless, the direction of the industry right now. But I was very impressed with this. It would be an excellent saw for a small cabinet shop. I would even use one to break down, say, melamine, rather than try to wrestle it up on my Felder table, because this stuff tends to be rather heavy. Here you can see it tipped on its side, and you can see the little counter scoring blade right there. It's exactly the same width as the main blade. There was the two gentlemen showing it off to us.
What is the depth of the cut of that saw?
Well, that would handle anything that you would use in cabinet making. It'll cut up to about 2 inches, just barely more than 2 inches. But you know, most sheet goods today are 3/4 or 1 inch. The real hit of the evening, I think, was the much rumored, we on the bus theorized we would see this. It's actually been out in Germany already for quite some time. Kai's probably seen one. But it's a battery powered 18-volt table saw. It comes on a portable stand. It has a sustainer cover, which is a plastic box. This will telescope in. It all folds up. A sustainer goes over it, and you can wheel it away. You can set it up in seconds and be cutting. Also debuted was now that they have a dust extractor called a Mini, which is their smallest true dust extractor. But it is now also 18-volt powered, 2 batteries right there. And it's Bluetooth to the tool now, so that it comes on when you trigger the tool, and it stays on 3 seconds after you turn it off. Also, this stand is arranged such this you can carry other things when you're wheeling it in on this step, but it is now a support for your outrip, so it has outrip support on it. Further, he's cutting very thin veneer with it here right now. And you can see the feet support, which an outfeed table immeasurably adds to that. I immediately asked, did it have saw stop in it? Because they own saw stop as well. And they said, well, no, we can't put that in this saw because it's not grounded. It's, battery powered. And saw stops technology requires on reading the capacitance of the user to trip the trigger that withdraws the saw blade, and without a ground. The nice part about this saw that both the blade went up and down and tilted via electric motors, and you could get both macro and micro adjustment on this by either pushing that button up or down. You push this one for elevation, this one for tilt. Those were the two tools that I really thought were a tour de force in the presentation. They showed us a lot of other stuff. There's the vacuum. And here he's demonstrating that he can turn on that saw and the vacuum comes on. They also, this has also been out here for a while. They explained a lot about their supply chain problems, the fact that they've had a lot of tools languishing in the warehouse, amongst them their battery powered track saw and this compound miter saw. They call their miter saw a Capex. But every battery requires a chip. And for the lack of chips during the pandemic, they've not been able to build batteries. But this is a really nice saw. I have a plug-in Capex in the back room. It's I think the best track saw on the market, but it's also the most expensive. Kai could correct my German here, but and he speaks Hesse-Deutsch like I do, but it's not just sehr teuer, it's I think fruchtbar teuer.
That's right, yes. But it's really good quality.
Oh, yeah. But when you walk out of the store with a Festool, you can just have no doubt in your mind that you've paid as much as it's possible to pay for that particular tool. And you could have bought a Bosch for about half the price.
Yeah, I, for example, bought a jigsaw about 35 years ago. I'm still using it and it's still going fine. So yeah, for me as a hobbyist, it's a tool I buy for lifetime, and it's really good quality, and they have a lot of good ideas built into their tools.
Exactly. They just, and if you send them to the repair center, they turn it around in 2 days, and they have parts for 10 years. Shaper is also another partner in the Festool, and they had Shaper there, which is a numeric or a computer controlled router, really. The other kind of interesting tool was this, what we call a bayonet saw. It has good dust extraction on it to the cordless dust extractor, and it has a gyro in it so that instead of beating you up, it just sort of sits there. So that's about they had some new drills that I was underwhelmed by, and they've brought out some ways to store bits in their drill boxes. I thought that was an improvement, but nothing crazy. They also brought out noise canceling earbuds that everybody else sells. Theirs probably will be very, very good. I've got a pair coming soon. I'll let you know, but it's just another gizmo. Any questions?
So Ernie, I had never seen a saw with digital tilt controls. Is that a first? That's pretty neat.
You can buy it in my Felder as an optional accessory, which it would be nice because you do a lot of cranking on a Felder because it has very fine control. But the saw was already 9,000 when I bought it, and it would have been like another 1,000 for the electronic tilt control.
All right, if I stop your share.
Yep, absolutely.
Ernie, what was the price of that tabletop saw, the little job site saw?
Well, they don't have a price yet because there's
Okay.
their German price, and then there's the American price. There's the supply thing, everything. Well, it's still maybe a month away from true launch. And we were told it would be in CAPEX territory, which means, and you'll have 4 configurations. You'll have the bare saw, the saw with a stand, and the saw with an electronics package, and the whole kit and caboodle. So 4 different configurations. And so you're talking, I think, somewhere between about $1,700 or $1,800 and $3,000.
Well, thank you for more ways I can spend my dollars. But so that's some impressive features, though. I do appreciate that. Anyone else have questions for Ernie? If not, I'm going to move to Bert, who had his hands up real early here.
Okie doke. Yeah, I'll just a quick update on threading jigs. So this is my threading jig. Mike will probably recognize it. This is a Chefware Kits style. It uses a lead screw in here. So this particular one is 10 threads per inch. I have another one, 16 threads per inch. But what I found is when I've been making my urns, I'm using the 10 threads per inch, and it works. But I'm finding that you have to be a little careful so you don't cross thread it. So I wanted to go to a bigger thread, a bigger lead screw. So I went to a local machine shop, and I'm not knocking the machine shop there. I mean, they have to keep their lights on, and there's a lot of work involved. And it was going to cost me about $300 to have them machine a new lead screw with something that would give me 8 threads per inch. And then Stu was talking to me, and he says, well, 8 threads per inch, why don't you just go and pick up a piece of Acme rod? And so I did. I picked up an Acme rod. It's 5/8 of an inch, 8 threads per inch. And Stu happens to have a small lathe. So we cut a couple of standard nuts down. And now I can replace the lead screw, take this one here out, put this one in, and now I have a lead screw that's 8 threads per inch. And at the same time, I went and bought 3/4 inch rod, which 3/4 Acme thread is 6 threads per inch. So we did the same thing. We cut a couple of bushings. So now I can install this inside my threading jig, and now I have 6 threads per inch. And from $300 to get one, all this material to make these 2 cost me about $50. And it's all readily available. We just had to machine the nuts down to act like a bushing. And the Belleville spring fits in between just exactly the same as the slack adjustment or the backlash adjustment in the original. There's a Belleville spring in here between the 2 bushings. Well, we're just going to modify these again. I tested them, but they weren't exactly right because these bushings aren't long enough to push accurately on the spring. So we're going to make these a little bit longer, and it'll be able to push against the backlash adjustment. And for about $60, I ended up with 2 more thread choices in my threading jig, and I'm really excited about it.
Hey, Bert,
That's it.
there was a guy talking about threading on ornamental turning discussion group, and he said that he found that 90-degree cutters work better for big threads than 60-degree cutters. And you can get them from,
excellent.
he said you can get them from Alibaba or AliExpress, one of those things. And you might be able to get them other places, but you can get them there fairly cheaply.
And that's a 90-degree bevel, double bevel cutter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll look into that. I never thought about that, but that's an excellent, excellent suggestion because it'll give it a steeper angle on the thread, which will make it more robust. I plan on using these bigger threads for making children's toys. with threads on them so that they can get the hand-eye coordination and discover something can come apart. I'd made my acorn Christmas ornaments this year. I made about 85 of them, and they were all threaded, like an acorn top and an acorn body threaded. And I'd given one to a friend of mine, and her great grandson had come over. He was 2 years old, seen it on the tree, and he was playing with the acorn, and he discovered that the top would move. So they recognized he was playing with it. So they went and put Smarties inside it. And the next time he came over, he was playing with it again, and he opened it and he found Smarties. Well, now every time that little fella comes to their house, he's looking for that damn ornament because he loves Smarties.
For those
That's
of us who are less machine inclined like me, I have a hope threading jig, which I believe you can buy different threads for and just replace the one element, but clearly for more than $50, I'm sure. So it's a nice.
Yeah, that was my point too. This is the Chefware kits, and I think they're about $150 for a lead screw from Chefware kits, which is not bad when you consider the amount of machining that's involved. It's just that a little outside my budget, and for $60 I got two. So just be a little creative.
Bert, Craig, you could get a 6 thread per inch from Craig probably, because he had a jig, same jig that it didn't sell well, but it was a double start. So you would thread 6 threads per inch, and then it had an indexing feature where you'd come back and offset the start by 180 degrees and take another pass. He probably has a bunch of those since the thing didn't sell well.
Yeah, like I say, I could have probably ordered one from him, but for $60 I ended up with 2 lead screws, and it gave me something to think about. Or
You can also make a little fly cutter that will cut very nicely and will often get in where other cutters won't, but you can actually build it yourself. But Nova sold a ornamental outfit that cut that way.
All right, I think I'm going to move to Barry, who sent me some pictures. You're muted, Barry, but it'll be interesting to see if Jim can figure out how to take my share with your picture. I'm not sure how to do that, but I can put your pictures up, I think. I didn't know which one you wanted first, though.
You could show the assembly first, or the assembled one.
Well, then I got lucky. You got that now?
Yeah. This is put into my tool post. It's I guess I'll call it a yoke and lollipop approach to work holding. It can pivot, down below 90 degrees or up vertical. And at the threaded end there, you see that's 1.25 inches. It's a 1 inch to 1.25 inch adapter, so that it provides metal threads for the chuck for when you're going to be doing some detailing work or hand working on a finished bowl or platter. The hose clamps, and there's 2 just because that's what I had on hand. They do a very good job of, you can take it on down so that it just provides resistance on rotating the bowl, or you can tighten it down a little bit more and the bowl will not move. It's a 3/4 inch bolt going through the pivot point, and I picked 3/4 inch just because the standard washer for a 3/4 inch is right about the width of the wood that I used. And that wood is all white oak. Okay, you can go ahead and show the pieces now. Okay, it's you got what I'm calling a lollipop piece that's 1 inch diameter. It's profile bandsawed first with the round part and the bored hole, and then put on the spindle and turned with the 1 inch diameter for the tool post. And it mars a little bit on the jaws with a jet lathe that I'm using. I don't know about how other lathes clamp their tool post, but it mars but does not damage the diameter, so it is reusable. And it has a lot more strength than I would have imagined on rigidity on the bowl when it's in place. And it's 1.25 inches thick wood going into that yoke, and then the yoke is 2¼ inches square that has been turned into a round and then bored out to accommodate the threaded piece that you see on the right. So you insert that threaded barrel, or the barrel that has metal threads on it, into the socket and tighten it down, and you can control its ability to rotate. And as I said before, the thread adapter there to go from inch to 1.25 inches. If you're using a 1-inch spindle, of course, you're home free with the 1-inch length. And I didn't use 1¼ inch steel thread just because I'm not really able to find it. It's not the standard. I think 7 thread per inch is the 1.25 inch standard. And so that's a little Packard. I purchased that little adapter from Packard for about $23, I think. And that's the only purchase piece for this thing, except for like $1.80 for the 3-inch bolt.
So Barry, what kind of operations are you using this for on the bowl?
When your bowl is finished, and you're going to either be like, if I cut slots in the bowl, or spirals, if you will, if anybody does spirals, to finish up where you penetrated, to deburr it or round it over with sandpaper. You want to be able to present the bowl to yourself at a good angle for working it, whether you're working it at the lathe or by removing it from the banjo and putting it into on your workbench. You can clamp it down so that the 1-inch diameter is clamped to your workbench, and then you're free to pivot and locate your bowl in any attitude so that the surface you're embellishing is more or less perpendicular to your face and convenient to work.
All right. Anyone else have questions for Barry?
Mike Peace, I've got a comment as a variation for that, Barry. Penn State sells a 3/4 10 adapter, so it's easier to get that 3/4 inch bolt that you could cut the head off and use it instead of your 1-inch. And I think this is a 1-inch thread here, but it's 3/4 10 here. So that's a variation. These are from Penn State, I think maybe $25. So.
Yeah, I have one of those, mainly because I bought a number of tools that fit my original lathe with the jet with the 1-inch diameter. And when I went to the 1.25, I bought a bunch of adapters so I could go up or down on the output thread. But here is the device right here. You see it on the one side. I have the nut epoxied on, so you don't have to use 2 wrenches on it. But you just with putting a wrench on the hex here, it's just tightened to a loose position here. And then you would thread the adapter here onto the 1-inch thread has been drilled and has been tapped into this oak block. Then the adapter screwed on, when you put the whole thing into your chuck and then insert it into here. And this has been bored to it's whatever diameter when you drill it, the 1.5 inch carbide bit. They don't finish up right at 1.5 inches. They're a little bit oversized. So you got to drill this first and then match the diameter when you're turning the male part. So it slides in there snugly. And like I say, you can, by tightening the clamps, you can tighten it so that it rotates under some force, and you can adjust that. So you don't have to unlock anything to work the entire perimeter of your object. You can work on an area and grab it out near its rim and rotate it a few degrees and work on an adjacent area. It's basically a wooden version of, it's my interpretation of a wooden version of what Trent Bosch sells. I think, Doug, you own one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you have more money than time, then go to Trent Bosch's website and see what he's got is made out of steel. But you're absolutely right, Barry. That's a much more
it's a
cost
very
effective
nice
way.
unit, but I think it approaches $200.
My wife gave it to me for a Christmas present. So what can I say?
Yeah, they are a pretty piece of work, but they do their job well. But anyhow,
Does anyone know where you can buy ATPI thread chasers? Can you even get them anymore?
where you can buy what?
8 TPI thread chasers.
I would say they're going to be very, very difficult. You're not going to find them commercially in the United States for wood cutting. You might be able to, Ernie or some of the other people with machining skills might be more familiar with other ways you could fabricate something, but that seems to be an odd size. I don't know why. The coarsest one seems to be 10 threads per inch that's readily available in the United States. I have not seen anything in my search by any of the wood turning manufacturers, I don't think, that sells an 8, even in Europe.
And I know that if you want some really oddball stuff, go to MSC Supply.
MSC, okay.
They've got a huge
Master
number.
Car also.
Pardon?
Master Car also has it.
Yeah.
They're often
You'd have
called.
to fabricate. You'd have to fabricate the chaser. You could get taps and dies, but to make a thread chaser, that's going to be a little different.
Well, I
Well,
bought.
Master Car has is. In fact, I'll just post a link to it.
I bought a 1 1/4 inch 8 TPI thread chaser for steel. It's designed to clean up threads on a steel shaft. And I use that to cut threads into resin. I'll pour a resin block, turn it down to size, and then I cut threads into that. And that's how I mount all my chucks on taper or tapped resin. But it'd be much easier if I could use a thread chaser. But I had to buy this die for metal to do it.
That's why I bought my lead screw, or made my lead screw for my threading jig. So now I can cut 8 threads per inch in wood, just like I cut in an urn or whatever. I got 8 threads per inch. I can cut that in wood, no problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we're going to move on here. I'm going to go to Kai next, and then I have some pictures from Ken Vasko we'll go to after Kai. So Kai, take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I've got some work pieces to share with you. I'll try to start the share. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. I need to build a fence, and a friend of mine gave some fence posts or some wooden beams from oak beams from a 180-year-old barn to me that was taken down. But when I got the wood, it was, in my opinion, too far gone to make fence posts out of it for a fence that should last another 20 or 30 years. So I decided to turn it into something. And that is the first piece I made, a wooden vase. I just cleaned up the fence post and put it in the oven to kill the wildlife in there, and drilled a hole into it for a glass test tube to put something in. So that's the first work piece. I just need to move that so I can see my arrow and go on. Yeah. So here you can see the test tube inside, and I've got a little dog next to me who wants to play with me. No, Lucky, no. Sorry. Just
Kai,
gone.
how large is that piece of wood?
It's about 12 inches tall, and the post is maybe or the beam was 6 by 6 inches, something like that. And I just turned the top and the bottom. Yeah, and I gave it to my wife as Valentine's present together with a rose, so it has already found a use. Right, so that was the first one. And more pieces from the same beam. This is oiled in this case. And again, I put it into the oven a little bit too long. As you can see, it's blackened here. And the oil brings out the black paint even better. And there is a use for another piece that I didn't oil, and I put a sphere from you on top of it.
Could I just comment that other piece wasn't put in the oven for too long? It was put in the oven for the right length of time, and it looks beautiful with that little bit of black on it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, right. So, yeah. Oh, I have to find with the dog here. And this is the same sphere, and someone used some red stranded wire to fix something to the tree while it was still alive, and it grew into the tree. And when I turned the sphere, I kept this. I think there's a close-up. Yeah, here you can see the stranded wire. I put some super glue on it to keep it as it was when I turned the sphere, and then polished it. So yeah, and then I tried something new for me. Normally I try to work to close dimensions and get a nice shiny surface with a lot of sanding, and this is just yeah, carved with a power carver or rotary carver, and then sandblasted. And I put some peppercorns into it to make it look like a pot or something like that. So that was quite nice to do something where you don't have to work to close dimensions and be creative as well. I know other people have done similar things. It was just nice to try it out. So here is a close-up of the sandblasted surface. And you can see it was easy to sandblast the wood away here and keep the, in Germany we say late wood for the wood that grows during the winter, and that's the soft wood that grows during the summer when there's more growth. So the soft is blasted away, and the hardwood is layers stay there.
So you didn't use any kind of resist. It really is the difference in the wood that lets you do that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I did a little bit of carving here. I carved it out. You could sandblast it all out, but then again, it's a little bit difficult to control my sandblasting unit 100%. So sometimes I tend to blast away too much of the wood. So I did the carving then and went easy on the sandblasting, not to blast too much wood away. Yeah. So, but you could do it all with sandblasting.
What size grit are you using?
Oh, for the sandblasting, you mean?
Yes,
I
for the
think-
sandblasting and the size of your nozzle.
The nozzle is about 1.8 millimeters, I think. And the grit is 300 glass shreds. Yeah, so very fine glass, like very fine sand.
And what pressure?
Oh, I've just got it in bar. It's around 4 bars. But I can look it up in PSI for next time, so I can give you the.
Well, I can look it up too. So you don't have to.
Okay, so 4 bars. I tried some oak as well, which is much harder, and there I use 6 bars. So it depends a little bit. So, and that's another thing I tried. So here I did a lot of sandblasting, and you can see how much wood it took away, and just these thin layers were
Hi.
left. Yes.
4 bar is 58 psi.
Okay. Right. Thank you. So, and I think I've got one more. Yeah, and that was the oak. For a pendant, I did some sandblasting on that. It was less than an inch thick, and I sandblasted all the way through in this area, and then put this frame around it, and colored the background with gold acrylic paint first, so to give it some contrast. And the oak is also fumed with ammonia for 2 days, and then I oiled it, and that brought the dark color out even better. Just after fuming, it looked a little bit more grayish, gray brown, and then the oil made it look darker, almost black.
So you fumed it with the gold in it?
No. I just fumed the insert you can see here, and then I turned the frame from another wood and put the insert into the frame, and the frame is painted gold on the inside, and then I put the oak pit in, so there is no gold paint on the oak.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so the frame is continuous on the back side, so it's like
yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Did you use household ammonia or some industrial strength ammonia?
I think it is 30% ammonia that you can buy in Germany without any problem. So I think it's household ammonia. Is that right?
No, 30% would be industrial strength, I think.
Okay. So it was industrial strength then, but it was no problem to get it. With some other stuff that you need for bleaching, for example, in Germany, high concentrations are hard to get, because you can use that for bomb building and other stuff as well, and so they control that. But ammonia 30% is available in Germany. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. Just have a look. Yeah, that was the last. So I stopped the share.
What did you use for glue to, what did you secure the insert with? What kind of glue?
Just ordinary, I think, wood glue. In the States, it's yellow glue or something like that. Ordinary wood glue. I made sure that there was no oil on the outside of the insert and on the part where I glued it to the frame. So, and then I oiled the frame after the gluing, because otherwise the yellow glue won't adhere good to the oil. But yeah, it works with oil. You could use epoxy as well. That should do the same thing.
Kai, did you
Questions for Kai?
Yeah, Kai, did you use an enclosure when you're doing sandblasting, or you do it in a corner of the shop, or how do you do it?
No. I've got a sandblasting box with gloves that reach inside, and a window you can look through. I can take a photo if you're interested and show it next time.
I just wondered, you know.
Yeah, you have to do that. And even though I had a lot of the sand flying around the workshop, and I made sure I cleaned the bedways of my lace afterwards and stuff like this. So there are places where you don't want to have it. And I gave the shop a good vacuuming after the sandblasting. So it would be nice to do it somewhere outside in the garage, for example. But at the moment it's cold and a little bit moist in Germany, and the sand won't like that. It will form lumps, and then you cannot use it for sandblasting anymore. So I have to do it in the house, and then the workshop is the only place I can use for.
My neighbor got a real nice small sandblaster for cleaning parts from cars that he restores. It's about 18 inches long, maybe 12 inches inside on each side. It does a real nice job, and it's all contained. He has rubber gloves that go in it and everything. So look on Harbor Freight, you US guys.
I think Kai built his, and he showed it once before. Maybe next time, Kai, if you could just show us a picture, I think people would probably like to see it again.
Yeah, I can do that.
On sandblast cabinets, if you put a vacuum sucking out of it, it helps to control the dust floating inside and helps reduce the amount of dust that gets outside of it. So I'll have a little small shop vac and a high efficiency filter on it, and it helps to make it easier to see inside and reduce the amount of dust that gets out because everything's being sucked in. So
yeah, I do that as well. I got a filter that came off a harvester, so it's rather a big filter, and I use that, and I use my workshop vac to draw out the dust. But even though it has got electronic control and I can reduce the amount of airflow quite a bit, it's still too much airflow. So I will use an old household vacuum cleaner now that is not or doesn't have that much airflow and doesn't suck that much air out of the cabinet, because it doesn't only suck the air and the small dust out of it, it also sucks the sand out of it.
I think we're going to move on at this
reuse
point. But Kai, if you could just show, because I was very impressed the first time you showed it. I think it's a pretty neat setup he has actually, and be interesting to see. I want to move on to Ken Vasko, who has a mystery tool. So pay attention here and see if we can figure out what this is. I don't know which picture you might want first, but
just put up the overall. So
I think that was is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's a good one. Of course, I was out at antiquing, and I found a wood turning tool, I think, or a metal turning tool. I'm not sure what it is. It's about 27 inches long. And there's a shaft, metal shaft that sticks out. It's 3/4 by 3/4 about, and it sticks out about 9 inches. You want to go to some of the detail? This is on the tip. It's got a tapered tip. It almost looks like a fingernail grind on it, but then it's got a little bit of an edge on it. You can go ahead and pick the last one. And there it is. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a mystery to me. It's got a set screw in it to adjust the length of the tool too. So give me your best shot. I don't know what it is.
Anybody care to take a stab at that?
Well, it's ground like a metal worker would grind his bits for an engine lathe. It appears to have a standard engine lathe tool bit, and it's got some back rake and a lot of side rake in it. So I imagine that maybe somebody was using it to on a wood lathe to do some metal machining.
Do you think it's usable for wood? I haven't tried it yet. I haven't gotten there.
Absolutely, just grind probably more severe rake angles into it.
So Ken, you found this out and about. So there's no evidence this was ever used for wood turning, is it?
No, I can't find any chips on it at all. On the inside, there's no evidence of any kind of chips or metal chips or wood chips. So I don't know what it is. I just have no clue. I thought maybe it might be used for copper, forming copper or something.
Could have been used by a metal spinner, because spinners do have tools like that they one sever a blank as they draw it out over a form and do things like
the length is pretty extreme. It's 27 inches. So I know they wanted to get some kind of control. So maybe metal is the use for it.
All right.
Ernie, I like your idea of a metal spinning tool for getting the edge off the metal. When you're doing the final trim on the edge, you need some sort of sharp edge, but it's got to be very small and very fine to get in there and do that detail.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
So Toby, let's go to you.
Okay, I have a couple of spalted pieces. Let me find it. Must be this one. There we go. Y'all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is a poplar. It was spalted and it had a nice line going across here of spalting. So I thought I'd use that as a divider line. And what I first did was, after it was all done, turned and sanded, I dyed the top part up here red. And then I went over after that dried, I went over the whole piece with the blue, which turned the red to purple and left blue on the bottom. So there's the back of it.
Looks kind of green on my screen. I don't know if it's a photo thing or.
Down here at the bottom?
I guess I do see that blue. Okay, but the rest, the general color seems almost yellow. Is that just what the wood is?
Yes, it's the underlying color of the wood, the poplar. So it was sort of yellowish. I use very thin dyes and the colors blend real well. There you can see the side view of it.
How do you keep them from bleeding across?
From bleeding across the this line here?
Yeah, well, I meant on the inside or down there at the bottom. How do you keep the red from bleeding into the bottom? Is it the iron that the spalting leaves or whatever?
Yeah, the spalting does a fairly good job of stopping the color from bleeding over.
Okay.
I used an acid brush for this. So it wasn't a real fine brush, and I just kind of pushed the dye sort of in that general area, and it bled over until it hit the spalting line and stopped.
Okay.
That's neat.
And then the second coat with the blue, it just went over the whole thing, so it didn't matter. And that the second coat also blends in with the existing red coat, and it doesn't look like a harsh line anywhere else. If I did go over a little bit, it just kind of blended together. So and then I had a second piece of the same wood and the same kind of spalting. I did the same technique, but depending on the density of the wood in certain areas, it'll absorb more of the dye and gives an interesting pattern and color change.
Where do you get the spalted poplar? That's not a popular thing, is it?
Well, after I got the tree from a storm from someone who offered it to me, I just sat it in the field out from my house, and after a while, it just spalted itself.
Okay. Neat.
What kind of dye
Along those,
are they? Transtint or something else?
yes, it's transtint dye.
Okay.
I can't figure out which way I'm going here now. I have another piece to show. Here it is. This is another piece that I spalted myself. This is English walnut. And I turned this green, and then my process is I turn a few bowls green, and then I put them in a plastic bag until I'm ready to label them and wrap them up in newspaper and store them down in the basement. Well, this one I put in a plastic bag, but I forgot about it. So it sat in that plastic bag for a couple of months at least. And when I finally found it, it was just covered in mold, solid, thick, ugly looking mold. But I went ahead and wrapped it up in newspaper anyhow and dried. And this is how it turned out when I turned it. So it added some nice, interesting coloration to it. But this one was spalted. This one was spalted after I turned it.
So what color did you dye this one by, Toby?
This one I thought didn't need any color, so it had enough going on. There's the back of it. And the side view.
It's very nice.
Very nice.
Okay, that's all I have then.
All right, thank you. Harvey, can we see if your mic is working now?
Do you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. All right, so give me a second here to get some pictures up.
Where's the music for it?
I think now Howie is muted.
I'll just tell you what the pictures will be. The first picture is we have a sculptor in my community who was commissioned to build to create a monument of a bagpiper for the College of Worcester in Ohio, which are the Fighting Scots. And it's going to be a third larger than real life. And he needed a set of bagpipes to create his molds for this. And so never having done any real spindle turning, it was a challenge for me, but those pipes you see there were my result. And the second picture that I'll show is I had a platter that I had made, and I was just finishing the bottom of it by putting a little burn line a couple of burn lines that I put my name in between. And it was a little bit soft punk in the wood a little bit and a crack. And the result was it exploded on the lathe. So those will be the two pictures. I'll just take a quick moment to show that.
All right, thank you. Yeah, as soon as you hit that, you get into mute. I don't know why, but we do see the cracked platter. That is scary cracked. All right, well, thank you so much for that, Harvey. We are at the top of the hour, so I'm going to use John's usual routine here and say thank you to everyone for participating in this this meeting, and see you again next week, but hopefully with John, not me. So anyway, thanks all.
See you. Thanks a lot.
Bruce, thanks
Bye.
a lot.
Everyone, see you all next week.
Good job, Bruce.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.